All right, welcome everyone to the third episode of Grimbrook Tonite. Tonight's guest is Zigs, so thanks for joining us. Glad to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So to just jump right in and to let our audience get to know you a little bit better, I guess I'll just start off with a simple question. What kind of inspired you to get started as a musician?
So, growing up, my mom, she kind of raised us on Queen and,
Nice.
some like hip hop and R&B and just like very just amazing musicians. So, growing up, I love music. And then my brother, he's a couple years older than me. We actually have a
Okay.
band together.
Nice.
And he kind of started playing guitar when he was around like 16. And I was like, oh, like I want to do that too. I was kind of like just following everything he did.
Right.
Because I thought it was so cool. And then he really, when he got to college, he went for music and he really started taking
Oh,
off. Like in
nice.
LA, he was playing big shows and
Wow.
writing his own music. And I was like, this is amazing. And
Yeah.
then he came back to New York and let me play with him a few times. And that kind of just like sparked. I was
Yeah,
like,
of
this is
course.
what I want to do. Yeah.
Well, then I've seen that you guys kind of have a duo. Are you still active together right now then, or like are you doing more stuff solo?
Yeah. So as far as like, so it's funny. My brother, he's like, I guess one of my ghostwriters. Like he helps me write all of my songs.
That's awesome.
Whether it be on guitar, yeah, he's awesome on guitar. Or if I'm like, Mike, I need help with this chorus or something like that.
Right.
He's so like musically talented that he's always there, whether it be help me write my songs or we perform all the time together.
That's
So,
really cool.
a source of income for us
Yeah.
is our band called the Zygons.
Right.
So that's our last name.
Yeah.
And we get to play together. We play 1 to 3 times a week, depending on what's going on.
Nice.
But I love playing with him. We get to play a lot of covers and kind of mess around, and
Yeah.
a lot of improv songs that kind of turn into real songs, which is cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So we do that all the time together. So it's awesome, a little family bonding and
Yeah,
making some money.
of course. And just to have each other to like bounce ideas off of, I'm sure that helps in terms of inspiration and get being creative as opposed to just like being alone in your apartment or something, just like trying to make stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because
Now,
his influence is very like funky and rock, and he likes a lot of like different music. And
cool.
my music taste is a little bit more. I do like funky stuff, but I really love R&B and hip hop, and like some like acoustics and stuff like that. So meshing like you know our music taste together usually makes for some interesting and awesome music.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, even of the covers I've seen you play and the original music of yours that I've listened to so far, it's very clear that there's like a blend of genres that really inspire you. Now, are there any artists in particular that like you've kind of modeled your music off of, or that inspired you when you were younger to even like get into everything that you're doing now?
It's so funny, this question. I feel like I always like in interviews and things like that.
Uh,
It always stumps me because it depends on the day, right?
right.
But like I mentioned before, I mean, Queen growing up, like Freddie Mercury
Sure.
is the best performer of all time, in my opinion. So, growing up, seeing him, well, obviously not seeing him perform, but like,
Right.
watching him in videos and things like that and hearing his music, man, I mean, I really like right now, I really like, John Bellion, obviously from
Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
Island.
Of course.
I think he's so amazing, and his music and stuff like that. I think it's
Yeah.
just such a good blend of pop and R&B and hip hop and all that.
Yeah. He's
So I
super
really
talented.
like he's so talented. I really like paying attention to artists like him and Dominic Fike. I don't know if you know Dominic
No.
Fike. He's from Florida. Actually, I have a
Okay.
bunch of like mutual friends that know him,
Nice.
but he's amazing. He actually just did a song with Paul McCartney. It's so good,
Yeah.
but very like just different,
Yeah.
like a mix of rock and hip hop, again R&B, but like alternative-y stuff.
Yeah.
So really like those artists that blend correctly, like blend
Right.
together and make their own original sounds. That's definitely been like an influence of mine. It's kind of just like seeing how people do that. How can I do that with my music?
Yeah.
And just really, I mean, listening to like the basics, like R&B. I love Miguel. I love
Right.
Drake.
Yeah.
Um, you know, different stuff, different funky stuff. Just kind of like always keep my ears open and being open and listening. Like I like classical music. I like jazz. So
Nice.
just taking everything in and being like, all right, what do I like? What works for me?
Yeah.
What
Of course.
doesn't? Things like that.
Well, then to segue a little bit off the music and get into some of the other stuff that you're working on, I know you started an initiative to kind of help the homeless population in New York City. How'd you get started with that, and kind of what are you guys working on now?
Yeah. So a few years back, actually, me and my girlfriend, we were in the city and I was in a class it's like a self-development course in
Okay.
Manhattan. It's called Landmark.
Okay.
I was doing that, and actually we had a project. Everyone got to basically pick a project, and it was funny. As I was walking, I wasn't really thinking about a project. I was just like, we just saw so many people that were homeless, and it was
Sure.
so cold out, and I was like, damn, like this is messed up. Like
Yeah.
people were just walking over them. It was snowing. It was freezing. It was like Christmas time, and I'm like, we should really try to help some people. And in the moment, I'm like, what can we do, right? Like with limited resources, limited money, like I was 22 or 23 at the time.
Right.
So I was like, what can I do? How can I make a difference, without like going homeless myself and breaking the bank?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so the first thing was like, all right, first of all, let's put it into existence and get some people around us. And then
Yeah.
let's just get the basics. I texted my family, group texted my friends in the area. I was like, hey, looking to collect some blankets and maybe, hand out some people in the city
Right. Yeah,
during
it
the
doesn't always
holidays.
have to be money. It's like you can find other
Exactly.
things.
And that was like the main point, is
Right.
that like anyone can do this. Literally anyone. So we
Yeah.
did it a couple of times and it was amazing. I mean, the people we met, people just want to be like spoken to and acknowledged, to be honest.
Yeah.
The blankets and the toiletries and everything was a plus, but it was really like the love and the like compassion for each other.
Hmm.
I mean, I've learned so much, I guess, like so much more out there than I would have, just in my everyday life,
Sure.
just learning about people and talking to them, and
Of course.
such an amazing experience. And people are just so grateful. You meet so many different people, and really puts it into perspective. Like we're all so lucky. These people have nothing, and they're living every day, not knowing, if they're going to eat, not knowing where they're going to sleep, and they have a smile on their face. So very eye opening. People are amazing at the end of the day. That's kind of what I learned. And to be honest, during COVID, it's been a little bit hard.
Of
We
course.
slowed
Yeah.
down like heavy. We haven't really been too active on it. We did actually, there was someone over here in Bayshore that we helped out, and we actually helped her get into like housing, which was
That's
amazing.
awesome.
It's cool to see it go like that far.
Yeah.
We helped to get her to a shelter and like things like that. So
That's really cool.
that was amazing, and definitely want to do more of that, like locally Long Island stuff. But as for like the city, it's been a little tough to get out there during COVID.
Yeah.
But we have so much stuff in my storage unit, so we're gonna get back at it pretty soon when it's safe.
Well, that's the thing too, is like the stereotypical, I should say, like image of the homeless person is like you're in a city and it's someone like with a cardboard box type of deal, but it's like people on Long Island that you might see at the grocery store or the library,
Yeah.
you don't even realize like they too could be homeless and be dealing with stuff that you couldn't even imagine. And I've noticed too, even just so I'll travel a lot for work, and I'll be in cities like Austin and Houston and then Los Angeles and San Diego, places where it's warm, and like the homeless population, obviously it's not ideal in any climate, but to be in warm climates and not have to struggle through the winters like here in New York,
Yeah.
um, you get to see that like they're human too. It's like they're not just some kind of thing on the street. Like when you actually are
Yeah.
able to engage with them and have those conversations, and not necessarily ask them how they got there, but just to hear their story and to see
Hmm.
like what kind of things they've experienced that ultimately led them to be in the position that they're in. It's really crazy sometimes.
Yeah, it is, and it's eye opening because I like joke around with people, especially on the street. I'm like
Right.
two paychecks away from being homeless. I mean,
Right.
we live in New York. Like realistically, we live in New York.
Yeah, I get it.
And some of the stories that you hear, that could be my dad, that could be my uncle,
Right.
that could be anyone, that could be my friend, that could be me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
especially here. I mean, as far as cost of
especially
living.
here, people get knocked down, and it's hard to get back up sometimes, which
Yeah,
is, we've all been there. And sometimes, a lot of the times, it's just people. I could get knocked down, but I have a whole support system around me. What if
exactly.
this person, their family passed away, or they're older, like
Yeah,
you have no idea, they moved here and they didn't have anyone, like
right.
they just didn't have people to pick them up like we do. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, be nice to everyone.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you never know, tables could turn and you might need help one day, and you
Right.
hope that someone would ask you how your day is going, or ask if you need a sandwich, because
Right.
at the end of the day, that's, we're all human.
Exactly. Well, so to, I guess, get into a little bit more, I just mentioned travel. It looks like you get to travel quite frequently. I mean, I don't know how often you've gotten to travel through the pandemic, but of the stuff I've seen that you've posted on the internet, is there any particular place that you've traveled to that is your favorite, or do you have any kind of bucket list travel destinations that you really want to get to?
Oh man. Um We did. So I did get to go on a trip. It was amazing. Me and my girlfriend, we took we rented one of those like vans, camper vans. It was like
Nice.
you saw that, right? It was like a fake camper van. Like they
Right.
basically like turned it into a camper van. It was like a Sprinter.
Yeah.
And we drove from Denver to Vegas.
Wow.
And it was unreal. I've never been in that like climate before. So the dry heat
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
camping and oh my god, it was unreal. And I wrote a really good song while we were in
That's awesome.
Canyonlands. Yeah, and I'm so pumped. It was such a crazy story actually, and I'll tell it quickly. And people don't know the song yet, but
All right. Cool.
hopefully when they hear this, it might be out.
There we go.
So we met this guy and he was hiking, right? And we were just like, oh, you want me to take a picture? We were up on the top of the Canyonlands, like
Okay.
just like, randomly. And this guy was by himself and he was kind of taking a selfie. I'm like, oh, you want me to take the picture, whatever. Start talking to him. It's this like older gentleman. And I don't know how we got into his story, but I'm like, oh, like, you travel a lot. And he said he's been to like the past like I don't even know, like couple months, he's been to so many different places. He said he
Wow.
was just like kind of like speed traveling.
All
And I'm
right.
like, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
he basically said that his wife had just died of cancer
Ah,
and he was
jeez.
just so sad.
Yeah.
And he was living dangerously on the edge. That's just like what he said. He was just
Wow.
like, he wasn't trying to like do anything. But
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, he said that he was one living for his wife and
Right.
living basically on the edge, being like, if I fall, would it be so bad? And what a concept! I
Yeah.
was like, oh my god, this guy was amazing. But that story stuck with me, and I remember right when we got back in the car, I wrote it
Uh,
down. I'm like, wrote down everything he said, and
yeah.
I'm like, I gotta do something with this. So when we
Of
got
course.
back to New York, I wrote the song. It's called One Step Away, and
That's really cool.
it's about him. He's never gonna hear it, but it's a cool
Hey,
song.
you never know.
You never know.
And it's crazy too, like, I mean, as a fellow musician, like that's the stuff that you live for in terms of like finding inspiration to be creative. Because like, I mean, I try to every day I try to do something in terms of writing or even just like tinkering with stuff that I've recorded. And sometimes it's tough to like push yourself through that wall where you're like just doing it to stay in the habit of doing it as opposed to like having something that's like really driving you in that moment. So that's a cool story to hear. um
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
I guess in terms of the stuff that you've gotten to perform, I know this past weekend you were at the Paramount, and it looks like you had a lot of fun with that. Now, do you have of the places that you've performed in the past so far? Is there any one place that like you really love that's like been your favorite?
Man, such a good question. I perform at so many different places.
Right.
I mean, I love performing at bars and restaurants. Fire Island is always amazing. It's always a good time. Specifically, I mean, I haven't gotten to perform too many places as Zigs, I guess you'd say. Like the
Sure.
Zygons were everywhere.
Right.
But Zigs, I did get to perform in Cleveland, which I
Get
I
out.
had a yeah, I had a really good time. I ended up going out there, and something called it was called the Rel Carter Culture Tour, and a
Okay.
friend told me about it, so I applied, and they told me to come over.
Nice.
Um, and it's funny, I actually met my current like consultant manager over there
Cool.
at the event, and it was a club in Cleveland, um, and honestly, like mostly everyone was rapping,
Right.
a couple R&B artists, but mostly it was like rap. So it was funny because I definitely stood out. I was a little bit more poppy,
Yeah.
like I definitely have that like to me, but everyone was just going up there rapping, and I got up and did my thing, and it was cool. I stood out. I was nervous because I was like, I don't know, if they're gonna like me. I think
Right.
everyone here, was kind of expecting. I think it was more of like a rap showcase, and I
Sure.
showed up with like a pop song, and
Hey.
I'm like, all right, let's see what happens.
Yeah, but that's
Um,
helps you stand out in that sense.
it does, you know what? And it was awesome. I met so many amazing people there, and people definitely really enjoyed it.
Right.
And I got so many cool connections, even people that were from New York and other writers and other musicians,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. So I got to say, I was definitely on cloud nine in Cleveland. I had so much fun,
It's a cool
and then
story.
like yeah, it was awesome, honestly. And it's funny on the way there. It was me, my girlfriend, and my dog. We're like,
Okay.
all right, one of my good friends lives in Cleveland, so I'm like, we're gonna stay at her house, we're gonna hang out with her, and then we're gonna go to the show.
Nice.
And of course, on the way there, I just got a new car. I got a Jeep, but it was used, so I was like, could be
Right.
anything. Broke down. we
Oh,
broke down in Pennsylvania, and I was like, I was like, we got to be there at,
right.
I think it was like 7. We broke down at like 3, 4 o'clock, and I'm like,
Jeez.
no. So we hopped over to Enterprise. We got a mom van, and
Okay.
we sped on over to Cleveland, and we got there in time. And then we had to come back and pick my
Yeah, I
car
was
up
gonna
on the
say,
way home.
what'd you do with the Jeep?
Dude, I was like, just take it at this point.
It's
But it was a
funny.
funny story. I was like, didn't know if I was gonna make it.
It's funny though how like that's always that like just in time type of situation where you're like
Just in
sweating it
time.
out. But even to hear like you say about how you stood out a little bit because of your difference in genre from the rest of the performers makes me realize how I'm in a similar situation when I typically go out to perform because it's constantly like singer songwriters with a guitar and a mic type of
Mm-hmm.
deal. And then here I am, I get up there and I'm doing hip hop songs. And in the same vein, like it's easier to
Yeah,
stand
it's
out
just
that way.
different.
Now, I've loved a lot of the covers that you've done, and it's cool really to see that like you play the guitar. So like, how long? I know you mentioned your brother's influence, but how long for you in particular has guitar been like the go-to instrument?
I've been playing for about like 2 years or so,
Get
maybe
out!
2.5. Yeah, it hasn't been too long.
Wow.
I mean, I've like always dabbled a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit, but
of course.
I think actually maybe like 3 years. I think I started taking it a little bit more seriously when my brother was like he moved home and he
Right.
started living home, so he was playing all the time.
Nice.
And he gave me his Spanish guitar, so it's a nylon string, and I was
Okay.
like, thing is like nice on the fingers, you know, it's
Yeah.
not too crazy. It's not like metal strings, so I'm like,
Right.
this is not bad. I really like this. And then when I started being able to play and to sing at the same time, I really
Yeah.
started liking it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best. I've definitely gotten better, but pretty basic chords, like not doing like crazy bar chords or anything like that. I really mostly play to write.
Okay.
Like I write most of my songs on the guitar,
Sure.
so I usually play to write. But I do have, as you can see, I do have fun playing covers and kind of coming up with my own stuff while I'm like chilling at home and stuff like that.
Of course. Well, the last question I have for you then, just as a kind of follow up on everything we've talked about so far, you mentioned having that song that you were inspired by the trip. Like, do you have any other original music that you plan to release in the coming weeks or months?
Yeah, I do actually. So I have a 3-song EP coming out.
Nice.
I'm actually so the song it's I'm actually super pumped. You're gonna like it. It's about New York.
All right,
So
cool.
yeah, I'm so excited about it. So I have it's the two of the songs are actually the same. It's just different versions. So there's gonna be 2 versions of one song,
Nice.
and then the last song's completely finished. So I'm actually working on the 2 versions right now.
All right.
But the one song and the music video is done. So we recorded the music video,
Awesome.
did the song, working on a photo shoot, and just got to finish up. I'm actually got a rapper on the other song, so
Cool.
just kind of like putting everything together at
Yeah,
this
yeah.
point. But the songs are written and mostly recorded in the studio, so
Perfect.
it's how it goes. Things don't always go as planned.
I
It's
get
like
it.
people coming in or you're waiting on this and that. So
Exactly.
I couldn't even give you a definite date, but
Hey, but it's out there. It's coming.
they're
So,
very close. Yeah, they're very close to being done.
all
So
right.
I'm hoping within the next couple months, um, you'll be seeing it out there.
All right, cool. Well, then I'll keep an eye out for that. And as the stuff starts to drop, of course, I'll obviously help promote it on the Grimbrook channels. And then
I
as you
appreciate you.
get all this stuff out there, if later on down the road you want to hop on here again and we could chat about it and help promote it a little bit more, I'd love to have you again.
Oh, I would love that. This is awesome.
All right, cool. Well, hey, it's been great chatting with you, and I hope you've had a good time. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Those are all great questions. You got me like excited about
nice. Yeah, that's the
everything that I'm
goal.
doing.
Great.
Appreciate you.
Of course, you too.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
see
Have a
ya.
good one. Later.
All right, well, we can stop recording, and then I really appreciate you doing this. It was great
Oh,
chat.